All right. Hi, guys. You're welcome to today's meeting. So as usual, we're going to go through the features you worked on last week, and then we are going to take the learning module by Radar, and then we'll go through the issues. So hopefully we're able to do that within the time. All right. So which team wants to start first? It's not showing on my end. Appearing and disappearing.
We can start.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me share my screen.
Should we show in production first? And then the code?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe you
so-
should share your screen.
Okay, I'll share my screen first.
All right.
So everyone can see my screen okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. So this week, Rachel and I added a feature where you'll be able to filter items through the list just by typing in the letters. And it doesn't, once you type in the letter, it doesn't have to start with that letter. As long as the words have that letter in the words, it will show up. And in order to go back to the full list, you can just click the X to erase everything. And yeah, so Rachel will take everyone through the code in order to be able to filter through the list.
Okay. Trying to share my screen. Everyone can see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. This is the file we worked in. We worked in the list of this.js file, and in here we actually created states that holds our item, and then we had to filter each of the data that is already here. We checked for the using this optional chaining to check if the property does exist. If this data does exist, then we filter each of them. And for each of the data, we are trying to check for the name property and with the lowercase. So which includes this item that is in the item that the user enters, and then it has to be in a lowercase. And we created, we returned a form. We created a form where it has an input where the user can enter their any word at all that matches the existing, that matches any of the item in the existing shopping list. And down here we added the filtered items in our UL so that it will display all the items that are in the list. I think that's it. Is there any question?
No, there's no question.
Sorry, I have a question. Sorry.
Okay.
So I noticed
Okay.
the X. How did you implement your console? I was curious.
Okay. We used the X. We used this input. We use. Okay. We use the type of search. So in the input, if you use type of search, you will get the X. It will just cancel your item without you implementing anything.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Also, the list
Okay.
item,
Yeah.
is it like where you styled the what's in the list item? The components.
And the components, this entire component.
No, I mean line 25. I can see you're importing the component on line 2.
Okay, line 25. This particular one, we actually didn't. We worked on this, I think, the previous week, where we are mapping each of the item, all the item in the shopping list, and we are displaying this list item that this one is actually a list li that's already in its own component. So we are mapping through each of those items and displaying them inside the list ul and li with the key, the name. We are displaying the name. So we also grab the key property, the item ID property, and set it to key.
All right. Yeah, that was a pretty straightforward section. Well done.
Thank you.
So if there are no other questions, we can go to Miday's team.
Oh, okay. So Victor will be displaying. So then I'll explain the code after him.
Okay. I'll do the UI. Okay, you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so I and Midday worked on a feature where we are
Sorry,
supposed to
Victor. Can you
implement.
close your? Sorry, can you close your this one here, your application where you see your local storage is covering the screen.
Oh,
So he
I've
wanted
split
to show it side by side, I think. Is that
yeah, I'm
intentional?
showing the yeah, it's intentional.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
so one side shows the dev tools, the other one shows the UI. So our form takes in a 3-word token, and if the token exists in the database, it is saved in local storage, and it directs you to the list view. So for example, if we put in a token that does not exist, say test, and click on join, you get an alert that tells you that the token does not exist. And if you put in a token that is existing in the database, for example, my test list, it redirects you to the list view and shows you the items in the list. So yeah, that was the part we're supposed to work on this week. So Midday will take you through the code. Oh, and if you look at the local storage, you can see the new token. The token that exists has been saved in local storage, highlighted in blue. Okay, so Midday will take us through the code.
Okay. Can you see my code, please? Hold on, please. All right. So I believe everyone can see my code, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So once again, good evening, everyone. So we're supposed to create a form, and The form is supposed to handle when a user joins an existing shopping list. Maybe you share it with your family, your friends. So here is the form created here. And the form is only going to be enabled if something is typed. So if it is empty, it's not going to submit because it will be disabled. That's why we have this here disabled and the token. That means there's nothing inside the form that can be submitted. And so the functionality is shown in the app.jsx. So I have this token here on line 6 is what I have as the value. So the value is passed into this state. And this use effect is used to move this token to the app.jsx. So here, if you look at this place here, this home here, this unchanged can be anything, but I just used unchanged. I put another state here. So that's a state that was used to pass in this thing, the token. So this is unchanged and it takes in token here. And so here it is, but here it is set form token. And so I have this the use state here. So we only use that to pass in our token. And we have, this is our function here. The function handle form. And then the comment, this function handles the join shopping list from, no, this is an exclusive. Okay, join shopping list form in the home page. So we have stream list item, which has already been brought in from the API. And what was done was just to pass in the form token or the token and check. We are checking the database that if it is empty, or if the length is 0, there is nothing. You can't find it because it's been run through the database. This token is being run through the database. It should alert token does not exist. But if the token exists, then it should do set list token. So this is basically what we did this week. I hope I've been clear. Thank you. Is there any question?
Yeah, it's pretty clear and straightforward too, and it works well when I tried it. So well done. I think one thing that probably during refactoring towards the end of the project is taking care of loading state and then probably error state, like when a user clicks the button to try to join a token, by the time you're making an API call, there's nothing showing the user that something is happening. They might think their screen is freezing or something. So it would be good to like put a loading state, or however you just want to communicate to the user that something is going on. And then when for some reason their network is not strong enough to fetch data to complete the API call, or for any reason they what is it called now? The API call fails. So you need to be able to tell the user that something happened and you're not able to show them the list or whatever they are fetching. So we can put that into account. Maybe not now, towards the end of, or have the last 2 weeks for styling and refactoring. Maybe then. Yeah, it's just a little thing to point out. Does anyone have any other questions or comments about the implementation? Okay. So one more thing before we go over to the learning module, that thing I talked about on Slack, where a user is able to go into the app even though they don't have a token. Did anyone check it out? Was anyone able to troubleshoot?
Okay, so I checked it out. I put a comment out there that we actually handled it, and Reda pointed to me that we only handled it for the home page, like the protected route for the home page, that we didn't handle it for the list and add item page. So I don't know. Are we supposed to do the same thing that we did? Can I share my screen to show you what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, this is what we did, so that if the person doesn't have a token, the person can get into. That was, I think, the first or second week. So are we supposed to do the same thing here, or we just go the way of protected routes and then maybe make some charge? I don't even know how to go about that. So any pointers on what to do regarding that, or should we just implement the same thing?
Yes, I guess probably you could do the same thing there. So if there is a token, you can navigate to the list. But if there isn't, you will navigate to the home page. So it's kind of the same pattern. I guess the way who was working on that issue, Claysta and Victor, I guess. The way they did it at first, that they check inside the list component, they check for the token, and that way protected both routes. But it's in the same time caused a problem like we had when the user clicked the home page. We had a problem like a flashing button will appear and it will redirect again to the list page. So we did this. Glesta did, Glesta and Victor, if I remember good, did this thing here. So they check about the list token before going to they check for the token before going to the list components. So you either do the same thing and protect the list route if there isn't a list token, just as Midi said now. Otherwise, you can just hide the navbar when you are on the home page. So because, I mean, just hide navbar if you don't have a list token. Because if you don't have a list token, you don't need actually to go to the other routes. But even that, it's still a problem if the user type, for example, /list. So it's better to have protected routes. It's
Yeah.
always good to it's kind of like authentication. If the user is logged in or logged out, it's the same. So you can do it both. You can hide the navbar because it's causing confusion anyway. You can hide navbar because the user, if it doesn't have any list token, it doesn't make sense to have to have like a link to the list item or to add an item because you don't have a list anyway. So you can do it both, protect the route and hide the navbar, and you can hide the home link. You can just hide it on when you have a token, and when you have a token and you are on the list page. It's kind of confusing, I know, but I hope it makes sense.
Yeah. So I think doing both will help, because even if you just hide the navbar in the homepage and then take the list item into the list, take the list nav into the list components, the user is still able to go through the routes, as you said, and then when they're already inside the list and then they delete their token from local storage, it's not as if a random user will go to, but just to be sure, like when you delete the token, they are still able to access. If you don't protect that route, they are still able to access the list route even without token. So I think doing both, protecting the route and then moving the add item nav and then the list nav out of the home page. So moving the two of them out of the home page, and then also putting Okay, are they going to put the homepage inside of the homepage nav inside of the inside of the list view now?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
They
So
can put the, yeah, I guess
yeah.
so.
So once a user hits your home route, your base route, if you check if they don't have a token, if they have, you take them directly to the list. If they don't have, you show them a button. So they won't see the nav link, they won't see the add item link, they won't see the view item link. So their only access to inside of the app is either through the button to generate a token or through the form field to join an existing list. Yeah, and in addition to that, you can also you can also protect the route. So those two solutions can really help. So do you want to do this now, or should we also keep it towards the end when you're doing refactoring? Or can someone just quickly implement and push? Which one do you want to go with?
I was thinking maybe we could see how the work goes this week, and if one team is done sooner than the other, maybe they can try to implement it. Yeah. If not, then we could maybe push it for a little bit later. But if it's possible, yeah.
It's okay. It's really
Just
nice.
think of it like, sorry, Shamaka, for interrupting. Just think of it like log in and log out. So if a user is logged in, you can show him the button for login again. It's kind of the same case here. And if a user is logged out, you can show him like a button for logout. So it just makes sense that way.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and I saw a particular solution where they use protected routes, but I've not explored it. I think it's part of React now.
So it's basically this, it's a higher order component. It's basically the same thing. So what it will do is that you won't have to write the code like 3 times. So you just extract that particular code that is doing the logic to check if there is token. So you'll pass the route you want it to go to when it has verified that you have a token. So you extract it to another component and then wrap every other route through that protected. It's doing the same thing. So now that you have 3 routes you need to protect, using a protected route component might actually be helpful instead of repeating one code 3 times. So it's anyone you want to do, actually.
All right, thanks.
All right, Rita, I think you're ready for the presentation.
Okay. Let me share my screen. You can see my screen, right? All right, so pair programming. I believe you all have done this before now, you have been doing it for the last 3 weeks, and you already got the idea and the feeling of how pair programming works. So this presentation maybe will be just a repetition of what you have been doing, maybe with some additional information. And in the end, we will open a discussion about how your experience was so far. So let's start. Oops. Somehow I can't get first slide, but here we go. Pair programming. It's just 2 developers sit together in front of a computer and take turns writing code using just one keyboard. And this is the case in person pair programming. So as you see here in this picture, there's like 2 girls with two monitors, sorry, and 1 keyboard or computer. So the two individual will take one of these two roles, the driver or the navigator. The driver is the one that who controls the keyboard and is responsible for writing the code they need in order to complete the task. And this person will try to verbalize their thinking process as much as possible. And this is the most important part of being the driver, is to be able to explain and say what you are doing and what you are like coding to the other person, which is the navigator. So the driver thinks low level about the code, and the navigator pays close attention to the code the driver is writing, offering guidance, suggesting alternatives, and finding answers to upcoming questions and challenges. So while the driver code, the other can give him feedback, the navigator can give him feedback. He can read maybe the docs and search for answers and so on. And of course, the pair can switch roles. And let's move to the next slide. Pair programming, pairing remotely. So there are a ton. So what we said before was about pair programming in person. And now there are a ton of amazing tools that make remote pairing even more collaborative, but incredible collaboration can be happen with a very simple setup. So as you have been doing, I guess, for the last 3 weeks, the two developers jump into a call, the driver shares screen and codes while the navigator provides feedback and asks questions. And after that, the drivers push code to remote repo, and the navigator puts that code down locally, and then we swap roles and start again. So what is the mindset and attitude behind pair programs? Pairing is an exercise in sharing your Lego. So it can be more efficient to go with your pairing partner's idea than to argue on an approach. So it's always better to do not argue about like your pair idea or approach. Just give it a try and go with it. Because in the end, you may be surprised of like how your partner like got the thing, like how he approached, and you will learn something new. So don't be like, I don't like this approach, or from the start, I don't like this approach, or this is not gonna work, or I don't like it. Just give it a try and see how things will go. In the end, you will end up even learning a new thing, or you will see bugs, and that's bugs, and then you can try another approach, and that's a learning opportunity anyway. So the beginner's mind, embrace doubt and possibility. So even if you doubt your partner approach, just go with it. It's not about teaching nor mentorship. It can be about teaching or mentorship, but the main objective and goal is to finish your task and to finish the task you are working on. It is an opportunity to learn, of course, as we said before, and share tips between the pair, shortcuts, and other many things. Drivers seek agreement before proceeding. So as we said before, when the driver is writing the code, he's trying to verbalize what he's thinking. And before writing, he needs to get agreement from his partner. So always be like, do you agree with this? Like, does it sound a good idea? And so on. And navigators ask, don't steal. So don't be bossy. And so now we'll open up the questions, and I'm gonna ask the participants, how was your pair programming experience so far? Or if you have any question about what I said, right? Does anyone have any inputs? Just how was your experience? Did you enjoy it? Was there any blockers, anything? Yeah, go ahead, Kristen.
I think for me it was each time it was different, and it was something new to learn. So like the first time we didn't have, I was pair programming with Victor, and we didn't have live share. So I was talking, he was typing, and then with Mida we got live share. So we're trying to figure out how to do that, and I think we were really good at saying, okay, let me try this. Okay, let me try this. And then with Rachel, I was the one to live share with her. So we were kind of trying to figure it out, and then we were learning how to commit together. So it was a new learning opportunity each time I did it so far. So it was sort of like trial and error, I guess I would say. Yeah.
That's great. I think the way you can like switch roles is it's better like to stick to one role for at least until you finish a task. So if you are the driver, you are the one who's sharing your screen, you will like just keep coding until you finish your task. Or maybe you can just set like like sessions for 25 minutes, something like that, and then switch roles. And that's it.
And I also think from what Lester said, that's really the whole point of pair programming, learning from people, like having to figure things out with somebody you're pair programming with, instead of having to figure out everything, on your own. It takes longer time. So it's really beneficial, really, really beneficial to learn, and then to also see how other people are doing things other than how you already know. So yeah, I'm glad our aim is being achieved. All right, all right, all right, all right. I think we should go through the
Last thing,
tasks now,
this
right?
is like the some resources we will share later on Slack. I guess Shamak already shared them about just to learn more about how pair programming goes.
Yeah. All right. All right. And by the way, I noticed one of the last week's issue is still open. Let me quickly close that. Why did I leave it open? So it's supposed to be closed. All right. So for this week, we are going through task 7 and 8. So task 7 says, as a user, I want to see a welcoming prompt to add my first item if my list is empty, to help me get oriented to how the app works. So as a summary, it says when a user starts a new list, they need a little guidance on how to get started. Think through what you would want to see as a user and make some intentional user experience decisions that will guide our users in confidently adding their first item. So as the AC, the list view, when there is no item to display, should show a prompt, example, a button for the user to add their first item. Okay, so just like this one. So when they generate their token for the first time, obviously they've not added anything to the token, and they come to the list view. This task is talking about adding a little welcoming message and then with a button, even though we already have a button here down the nav, but it will still help the user to see a button here to immediately click and then to go to the add item instead of having to look all the way down. To be a good user experience, to just like your shopping list is empty, add item, instead of having to come here and then seeing a blank page and then seeing 2 random links. So this is going to improve user experience. That is what this issue 7 is talking about. Just that, as I said, this button is going to be doing exactly the same thing with the button we already had that redirects them to the add item view. All right, so for task 8, it says, as a user, I want to mark an item on my shopping list as purchased, so the app can learn how often I buy different things. So this is like the main functionality of our app. So the user needs a UI that allows them to mark their items as purchased, so they can track what's on the list they do and do not need to buy. So the AC says the list item component renders a checkbox with semantic label. Checking off the item in the UI also updates the date last purchased and then the total purchases properties on the database. And then the item is shown as checked for 24 hours after the purchase is made. That is, we assume the user does not need to buy the item again for at least 1 day. So that item stays checked. Once they check, they can uncheck till after 24 hours, the system unchecks the item automatically. So the user will have to check again if they want to buy the item, if they bought the item again. So lastly, the update item function in Firebase.js has been filled out and sent updates to the Firestore database when an item is checked or unchecked. So you can check Firebase.js to see the update item function and how it works already, and then the props you need to pass to it. Parameters, I mean, arguments, anyone. Okay, so note, while you will need to update multiple parts of the Firestore document for this feature, do not worry about date next purchased yet. This will be addressed in the future item. You can use the Firestore console to test that this feature is working correctly. That is by manipulating the date last purchased to see if it unchecks after 24 hours. So this one is kind of a lot, but it's basically talking about the user being able to check an item. You know, they come on the system, they add items that they want to purchase. So when they now go to purchase those items, you show them a checkbox beside each of the items they already added. So they can either check the ones they bought, so that they can check the ones they bought. And yeah, so when they check an item, you're expected to update the last purchase and then total purchases in the database. If you can remember, we have these properties already, but before now we haven't really done anything with them. So this is where you update them with most probably the time you're going to be taking the exact time the user checked, so that you can monitor when it's 24 hours since they checked the box, so that you can remove the checkbox, the check mark. So yeah, that's it. And then it says the one update item function is already in the Firebase.js, so you can check it out to see how it works and then what you need to supply to it. So then, any questions? There's no wireframe for this. It's usually a wireframe for.
Yeah, I think the wireframe is I saw it last week. The wireframe for last week issue. I saw where
You
it
have
displayed
checkbox.
the items with checkboxes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So do you remember which particular issue that was?
Yes, it issue 6, I think. Yeah.
All right. So we already have this. We're about to implement this. We already have this. So we don't have the delete yet. So it's just this part we are focusing on for this week. Minus the colors, of course. I think the colors is something we still do in the future. So yeah, that's that for issue 8. So are there any other questions, or do you have any preference? Which one do you want to take? No. And you guys have to write your own functions. A little bit complicated, but it's fun, as a matter of fact. Hi. Do you guys want us to assign randomly?
Yes, assign randomly.
Nobody wants to take issue 8. It's very, very interesting. Very interesting. All right, let me quickly see how we're preparing for this week. What's going on? When the project brief.
Let me check. We are
Oh, this is
Lesta
not-
and Victor and Michelle with MIDI.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Okay, so Clesta and Victor for issue 7 and Michelle and Mide for issue 8. Is that okay? All right. So as usual, if you go back when you want to start working on it, um you can go through the issues once more, and then if anything is confusing, you can ask on Slack, like create another thread for it and then introduce the confusion. Then we can all look at it and talk about it there. All right. Michelle, did you want to say anything?
Sorry, can you go back to that issue 8? I think you assigned the wrong. Let me see if that's my account.
Oh
No,
my
that's
God.
not my own. Mitch Hub. Yeah, down. The next one.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. When I will this person. All right. All right. So that's it for the tasks. You can always bring up any issues on Slack and then we'll talk about it. Let me quickly check if I'm doing some. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we've come to the end of the meeting. Are there any other questions or anything we need to talk about? Any outstanding? Guess not. All right, so Aristos is going to review the code this week, so you can tag him when the code is ready to be reviewed. And then I'm going to have office hours, I think Wednesday. I like to put it at the middle of the week so that if you have any issues with your tasks, we can talk about it then. Tuesday or Wednesday by 4 p.m. GMT. And have on Wednesday. So we can talk about anything you want to talk about. All right. Thank you guys. I guess that's it. See you on
Thank
Slack.
you.
And
Thank
don't forget to
you.
ask
Bye.
questions.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye.